Hey guys, today we're going to review for the test that we have coming up on Tuesday, which is going to cover linear inequalities. So this one is going to have a lot of graphing. So let's start off by graphing this single inequality. Y is less than or equal to 2x plus 1. So one of the important things when you're graphing is that y needs to be by itself already. And this one, lucky for us, it's already like that. So we're going to start by graphing the y-intercept, which is going to be at positive 1, so that's B. And then m is 2, that's our slope. Anytime you have a whole number, you need to put a 1 underneath it, so 2 over 1, and that's how you know where the other points go. So starting from the point that we drew, we're going to go up 2 to the right 1. Up 2 to the right 1, up 2 to the right 1. If you want to work backwards, do the complete opposite. So then it would be down 2 to the left 1, just so that we could have points going all the way across our graph. Okay, now that we have our points, take a look at the symbol, and you have to decide what type of line you're going to use and which side gets shaded. So anytime your symbol is underlined, that's going to be a solid line. And this is a less than symbol. The way I remember is because it's pointing to the left side. Like this is left, this is right, and it's pointing to the left. So left means less than. So that means that we're going to shade below. So let's go ahead and draw all of that in. So let's do our solid line. And then shade below. So again, another thing that I do when I'm trying to think of what needs to get shaded in is put my pencil on the y-intercept, and then if it's below, draw an arrow going straight down. That means that this side is the side that needs to get colored in. So just like that. Okay, the next problem, it's also graphing the inequality, but this time it's going to be a little bit more work because we need y to be by itself, and right now there's 2x and a 3 next to it. So we're going to need to do a little bit of work before we start graphing. So first I'm going to write this down. So 2x plus 3y greater than 9. Okay, so I'm going to start with this 2x. If I want to move it over, there's 4 options, either adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. Since there's nothing in front of it, that means that it's positive. So we're going to do the opposite, and we are going to subtract. So we have to do that to both sides of the inequality symbol. So what that does is 2x cancels out. I still have 3y greater than. And then over here on this side, since the 2 has an x and the 9 doesn't, we cannot put them together. The only thing we could do is write them next to each other. So I'm going to start with negative 2x. And then this 9 is positive, so I'm going to put plus 9. Okay, but here's our y. It's still not alone. There's a 3 in front of it. So now we need to divide by 3. Three over 3 is 1, which would keep that y by itself. Since right now we're dividing by a positive number, that symbol is going to stay exactly the way it is right now, so still greater than. And now you're going to do each one of these separate. Negative 2 divided by 3 just stays negative 2/3. Then I'm going to put an x next to that. 9 divided by 3 is 3, so plus 3. This inequality is going to be a lot easier to graph. So let's start with our y-intercept is going to be at 3. So right there. And then our slope is this right here, negative 2 over 3. Since it's negative, you're going to go down 2 to the right 3. Down 2 to the right 3. And then just keep up that pattern going the opposite direction. There's my points. Okay, we need to decide what type of line and where it gets shaded. So according to this symbol, so don't look at the original, look at the one where you moved everything around. Look at that symbol. So this time, that symbol doesn't have the underline, right? It's just normal. So that's going to be a dashed line. And this symbol is pointing to the right side. That makes it a greater than symbol. So we're going to shade above. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that on our graph. So when you're connecting these points, make it a dashed line. So something like that. And we're shading above. Okay, and then just a reminder that the shaded region is our solution set. So any point that's in these shaded regions would count as a correct answer. Okay, now let's start looking at systems of inequalities. So if it's a system, that means that you're going to have 2 instead of 1. So there's our 2 inequalities they want us to graph. And lucky for us, these are already with y by itself. So we can just graph them the way they are now. Okay, so this first one, I'm going to do that one in blue. It starts at positive 2. That's our y-intercept. And our slope is negative 1/2. So that would be down 1 to the right 2. Down 1 to the right 2. Down 1 to the right 2. Just until you run out of space, and then continue it on the other side. So you have to ask yourself the same question. If I'm looking at this symbol, should it be a solid line or a dashed line? Since it has no underline, this is going to be a dashed line. And then are we going to shade above or below? That's a greater than, so we're going to shade above. So let's put that all together. Draw our dashed line. And shade that above. Okay, but that's only one inequality. We still need to do the second one. So the second one, I'm going to do this one in red. Okay, let's start. This one has a y-intercept of -1 and a slope of 3. Anytime that your slope is a whole number, you're going to put a 1 underneath it. That way you can remember your pattern. So it's going to go up 3 to the right 1, up 3 to the right 1. Okay, those are my points. Now looking at this symbol, because that symbol has that underline, this is going to be a solid line. And it is a less than symbol because it's pointing to the left. So we're going to shade below. So let's draw this in. Solid line. And shaded below. Okay, so this is what that system should look like on a graph. And if they ask you for the solution set, it's this area right here where it got double shaded, where it got shaded by both of our inequalities. I'm just going to shade it in a little bit darker, but that's our solution set. Okay, so let's look at another one. So it's another one where they want us to graph the system of inequalities. So starting with that first one, let's do that one in blue. X is greater than -1. So whenever there's no y, it's just x, that's going to be a vertical line. So just straight up and down, vertical like this. So really all you're going to have to decide is, based on that symbol, do we use a dashed line or a solid line? So on this one, it's a dashed line. And do you need to shade above or below? It's a greater than symbol, so it would be above. But because this is a vertical line, above would be to the right side. Okay, so let's put this on our paper. It should be at -1. So find -1 on your x-axis, and then we're going to do a dashed line there. Just like that. Okay, and then we said we were going to shade above, which means to the right. Okay, so that's our first inequality of this system. Okay, the second inequality, so we'll do this one in pink. We want to graph that, but the problem is we need y to be by itself. Okay, so in order to fix that, we need to move this 2x to the other side. Right now, since it's positive, in order to move it, we're going to subtract it. Those two x's cancel out, and I'm left with just the y, less than or equal to -2x and then +6. Now the y is all alone. This is what we're going to graph. Okay, so y-intercept at +6. That's up here. And then our slope is -2. Anytime it's a whole number, put a 1 underneath. That way we know that we're going down 2 to the right 1. Down 2 to the right 1. Okay, with the symbol that it has, so looking at that symbol, always look at your final answer. We're going to use a solid line, and it's less than, so we're going to shade below. So all of those points, let's connect them with a solid line. Okay, then we're shading below. So that would be this area. Okay, so our solution set is this triangle shape where it got double shaded by both of our inequalities. I'm going to shade it in a little bit darker, but that is our solution set. Okay, and then our last example that we're going to go over today is which area represents the solution set to the system of inequalities. So we know that the solution set is where it's double colored in. So on this one, they already gave us a picture of what it looks like, and see how it separates it into 4 areas. So I'm going to say A, B, C, and D. They want to know which area would have been double shaded if everything was shaded the way it was supposed to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of these inequalities and figure out what side would get shaded in. So I have x plus 2y is less than or equal to -2. In order to decide what side gets shaded in, you normally would look at the symbol, but only if y is by itself. This one doesn't have y by itself, so we're going to have to start by rearranging it. Let's start by this x. It needs to move over. Since right now it's positive, we are going to subtract it. X is going to cancel out on the left side. That leaves us with 2y is less than or equal to negative x minus 2. But that y still has a 2 in front of it. So in order to move that, we're going to divide everything by 2 on both sides of that inequality. So now I have just normal y. Since we're dividing by a positive number, that means that this symbol is just going to stay exactly the same. Now we need to do each thing separately. So I have negative x divided by 2. You have to remember that anytime there's not a number, there's an invisible 1. So what we're really doing is negative 1 divided by 2, which is going to stay a fraction. It's just going to be negative 1 over 2. And then we're going to keep that x next to it. Then the second part, negative 2 divided by 2, that gives us negative 1. So this is our inequality. So now based off of that, you would look at the symbol and decide what type of line and where is it getting shaded. So this would be a solid line getting shaded below. So let's take a look at the graph. So because it's a solid line, I'm pretty sure it's this one, but if you want to double check, it should be at negative 1, which it is. And its slope is negative 1 over 2, so down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. So this is that first inequality. So we know that it needs to get shaded below. So everything below that inequality. Okay, so that kind of narrows down our answer choices. So if the way I had it labeled before, I did this. Well, B and C didn't get colored in, so that means our answer choice is either A or D. It's going to be one of these two spaces, but we still need to figure out how the other inequality gets shaded in. Okay, so I'm going to do that second one in pink. So we have y minus x is less than 3. Okay, so again, I need y to be by itself, and right now there's that negative x. So we're going to do the opposite, and we're going to add. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Those x's are going to cancel out on the left side, so now I have y is less than positive x and positive 3. Okay, so y is already by itself here. So now we look at this symbol, and we decide what kind of line are we going to need and which side of the line is going to get shaded. So since this symbol is not underlined, I know that means it's going to be a dashed line. And it's pointing to the left, making it a less than. And that means that we're going to shade below. So since that picture only has one other line, it has to be this line. But you could just double check. It's going through positive 3. Our slope is 1, so that would be up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. It's already a dashed line, so we just got to shade below it. Okay, so our solution set is this area that got double shaded. I'm just shading it in a little darker. This area here. So I know for a fact that on the test, there's a question like this where it's going to have a picture that already has your 2 lines, and it's going to ask you which area is the solution set. So you just have to be careful that you're looking at these symbols here. Always make sure that you put y by itself before you do the shading. Okay, and that's it for the review. I did all of the odd ones with you guys. Your job is to do the even ones and get this turned into your period tray.